Welcome to the end of the year Connect This. We're going to review our predictions from back in January. We got some news to talk about, and we'll probably revisit some of the things that you all love. You know, we'll talk about 6 gigahertz and how many people have been connected by BEAD, I'm sure. So it's going to be a fun show. Travis has already checked 1 or 2 boxes off, and other people are well on their way to bingo. Let's introduce our guests. We got Doug Dawson, per usual. Welcome back, Doug.
Yeah, I don't really like when we revisit my old predictions because they're all wrong, but let's do it.
I don't think they were all wrong, but I'll have to we'll give it a look.
Right.
We got Kim McKinley, and Doug's coming in from CCG. If you're not familiar with him, he's kind of a big deal. Kim is on her way to being a bigger deal as she's now at her new position. Welcome, Kim.
Thank you. And let's be honest, Doug, you might have not been correct on some of your predictions, but you've done a heck of a lot better than Chris has ever done on his predictions. So just saying.
Good point.
And I'm coming to you from the Sky Club at Minneapolis. So excited to be here. That's why I have this big scarf on. It's freezing here, people.
Will you just do me a favor and at some point turn around and shout, "Will you all quiet down? I'm kind of a big deal."
I'll do that now, right now. How
Travis
do you get kicked out of a Sky Club? How do you get kicked out of a Sky Club? Yell and tell people to shut the F up in a Sky Club.
Travis is the 3rd member of the show, currently experiencing, 5 inches of snow falling in Minnesota. Welcome, Travis.
Yeah, I was supposed to have lunch with Kim today, but the snow, I didn't want to leave, so
Yeah,
we see it out. We see it out your window. Yeah, we can see
Kim said, "Oh, I need to take an earlier flight, so hopefully she gets out." So,
well, I'm hoping
they say it's
that
on time, but we didn't invite Chris. Travis, you're not supposed to tell him that we were supposed to have lunch if we didn't invite him.
I was just gonna say, my invitation must have been lost in the snow.
We were going to actually go knock on his front door and show up, but it was a surprise. But the snow came, and we just nothing has happened.
We have Jade Piros de Carvalho. Welcome to the show for the first time.
Thank you. Delighted to be here. I'm in sunny Kansas. There's no place like home if you don't know that.
And doing work now with Bonfire, a group that does some consulting, contracting type stuff, right?
Yeah, they lots of engineering and construction, but our passion is municipal broadband operations.
And some tribal clients too, at least one that we've been excited to talk about in the past.
Yeah,
Southern Utes. Yep, cool.
Thanks for the invitation.
Jade, you're gonna help us on the news and everything, bringing some of that expertise, having been the head of the Kansas broadband office when we're spouting off about something we think about BEAD or other things. But then also, you're going to be the unbiased judge that determines whether or not someone's prediction came true, I think. So that works.
I'm up for it.
Okay.
Hey, Jade, no pressure, but you're looking beautiful today. Just so if I'm gonna
Thank you. There's some kind of hyper filter on this StreamYard platform. I feel like AI generated right now, but I'm digging it.
I was just waiting for something to burst out of your closet. It's like framed so perfectly that just like some monster or something.
Yeah, so you can't see the chaos over here in my office. I don't have a proper office like my husband. He has the nicer office next door.
Oh, okay. So we are going to talk about predictions, but before we get there, we're going to talk a little bit about the New York low income plan. Got some news, legacy of the Biden FCC. There was an article. It's kind of a puff piece, but it gives me a chance to talk about
wait.
the FCC for the one person that doesn't know. Go ahead, Doug.
Doesn't Rye have something for us?
Yes. So before we get there, I was going to do a little preview.
Okay.
We're going to talk briefly about 6 gigahertz. That wasn't just a joke. We're actually going to talk about 6 gigahertz a little bit because the FCC took action on it. And if there's time, we might talk a little bit about this study, talking about how what the average cost and median costs are around the states and some stuff like that. But then we're going to get into our predictions. So before we start the first episode, the first story, we have a peekaboo. It's been a while since we did a telecom peekaboo, so why don't you bring it up, Rye? All right, so there's 2 different images. Were these, Rye, you want to jump on screen for a second, even if you're not prepared? Were these yours, or did you find them somewhere?
So my wife and I were on a bike ride, and this is just sitting near the trail in a suburban neighborhood in southern Minnesota. It's wide open to the elements, to everybody.
Yeah, did you could you zoom in a little bit? And we did one of these before in my neighborhood where it was a lumen cabinet that was open and collecting snow. I think there was, like, when I first went by it, there was an inch or 2 of snow in it. I think we actually took the photo. It might have been cleared, but
I cannot zoom in, unfortunately.
Okay.
Yeah.
We talked before about how some companies, like smaller companies, I think more often lock their places, but the bigger companies, I think, Doug, you had said don't. They just leave them open.
They don't, because nobody will ever have the right key if they do that. So they'd never do it. Yeah. So that's crazy.
So
I mean, I would guess Lumen for this one as well.
Why wouldn't they put codes on them or something instead of just keys?
I don't know.
Or is that a smart question?
You can find 10 or 20% of them open. Like this is the worst open I've ever seen. It's open on both sides.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a small, unnamed provider, regional provider in southern Minnesota.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not good for your stuff. That's for sure.
Travis?
Yeah.
Yes, Mr. Mitchell.
Any thoughts?
I would probably assume that 98% of that cabinet's not even being used anymore.
Well,
all twisted pair.
I was just gonna say, like, I mean, it's probably a pretty safe neighborhood that you're in, Rye, because if there's a bunch of copper there sitting wide open and it hasn't been stolen, you're not in my neighborhood.
Yeah. No, if that was Minneapolis, that would all be gone.
So the interesting thing here is, about a month after this, another cabinet pedestal that's near my house, same company, had got hit by a car or something, was ripped wide open. I tried to shove it back into place and couldn't. And then about a week later, it was all fixed. So they're still doing some stuff.
Yeah. Huh.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Yep.
Well, before we get into the news of the day, I just came up with something, and I was curious if other people wanted to play along. And it was we could nominate a sort of worst person or worst group for broadband for the year, and we could be pretty open about it, but I wanted to throw it out there. And Jade, I think you had one. You took it more seriously than others, which I appreciate. You haven't figured out what a joke I am at this point. So why don't you go first, and then we'll see what the others have come up with off the top of their heads.
Yeah, well, I don't like to demonize people, but since it was an assignment and I take those seriously, I would say that the RDOF awardees who never had any intention of fulfilling their obligations, but decided to squat on their locations instead of defaulting in a timely manner so that they could prevent those locations from being eligible for BEAD, are definitely in their villain era. So shame on them.
We saw some of this coming. I mean, like, it was this big question that we had even, I want to say, like 2 years ago. I was talking with Kevin Klain about it a bunch of times over. He's with Vantage Point, and he was talking about some of his clients were in these areas that were wide swaths had been granted to a company that does mostly wireless that let's say didn't have a great track record, and they were curious how, when they were starting to approach requirements to build, that these local telcos had reached out to be like, do you want to lease fiber or this or that? And they just sort of, and I think we even might have done a show in which we talked about how, like, they weren't hiring anyone. They weren't leasing routes. They hadn't pulled permits. There was just no sense that they were actually going to do anything. And so lo and behold, they didn't.
Well, and I get it. Like, we all saw that things have changed since the long form was approved. But if you're going to default, just do it. So we can find a different solution under ARPA funds or under BEAD funds or, under state funds. And so, I just wish they would have done the right thing, but they didn't. So here we are.
Yes, it's just really frustrating, and you get a sense of the difference between, I think a number of people come in this thinking about the differences between like for-profit and non-profit. And in some ways, I've learned in all the years working here. I mean, it wasn't just yesterday that I figured it out. It's been a lot of years, but the difference is those who are trying to serve the community and those that are just trying to figure out how to make a buck and retire wealthy.
Yeah, I mean, some of these art off awardees have done great work, actually. Like in Kansas, AMG is doing good work, but. So again, don't want to demonize them all, but a select few are definitely on the naughty list.
Yeah, Travis, I want to come to you next, because I was actually thinking the other day that if you and I formed a political party, we would call it the "What are we trying to do here" party.
Sir, I've told you 100 times I'm a resultatarian.
Yeah.
So yes, I like results. I don't like talking about them. We like doing them. So who's the worst person in broadband this last year?
Yeah, worst person, or who do you want to rant about?
Probably me. Yeah. I should probably go to the office every now and then. Maybe that's, instead of sitting here in my kitchen. So
I assume that's what you did last show when we missed you.
Oh, well, finance, banking time of the year. You got to get debt for next year. Happens every year. So
okay.
I guess
I'm gonna pick your worst person then for you, and I'm gonna say that it is Powell for getting your hopes up about rate cuts, and then today or this week dashing them a bit and sounding like you're gonna end up next year. And in our next show, we'll talk about where you think their interest rates will end up for the year. But you got some bad news there.
Well, 25 basis isn't bad.
Right, but the fact that they cut the forecast for next year is bad, I think, for you.
All right, I'll pick Powell.
All right, we're gonna go to Doug. Doug, what do you got?
I'm going to pick the team at NTIA who decided that lawyers get to call the shots and go extremely conservative. It happened. They were gung ho in the beginning, and then within 3 or 4 months, it was clear lawyers had taken over, and they've been super cautious ever since. And it's clear that their goal is not to make any mistakes, and so that has tremendously slowed them down.
Right.
I like the idea of doing it well and dotting all the I's, but they've gone to the biggest extreme I've ever seen in the industry. So
right, we know that they can just decide to ignore things. Like they are ignoring the congressional language that directed them to withhold funding from states that did not allow cities to compete for the funds. And NTIA understood that they could ignore that, and then they did. And then other rules, NTIA has said we're going to be really pedantic about this and lawyer up on it. So and I want to be clear, this is not a shot against all the many people at NTIA. It's just those that have set the agenda in this way.
And they've also done some very wonderful things, but boy, oh boy, the cautiousness has just been deadly.
Yeah.
So
I just want to know if anyone has any commentary on that. Jade, I don't want to put you on the spot, although I'm doing that right now.
Yeah, man, gosh, they're in a no-win situation, right? I think there was a level of caution to just try to avoid being sued or being having shots lobbed at them, but that's going to happen anyway. So may as well just forge ahead, fail a few times, get up, pivot. I mean, everyone's going to sue everyone anyway. Let's just get some good work done on the way to, on our days off from court, right? Let's get some people connected on our days off from court. But again, they're in a terrible position, and a lot of great, hardworking public servants there. But do agree that it could have been expedited in a way that better served the consumer's needs. So that's a shame, because all the credit for BEAD is going to go to the next administration if it doesn't.
Maybe. I think it remains to be seen what happens next. Kim?
Well, I did take the assignment seriously, like Jade said, but I thought it was like the person who gave the worst jokes in broadband, and that was definitely you, Chris. But when I just realized I took that assignment the wrong way, my worst person in broadband is actually a lot of the bad actors that are out there who've taken a lot of money from people and haven't really delivered on their promises. And can't deliver on their promises, but they've seen the windfall that's happened in the past few years.
Well, that was one of your predictions, and I'm looking forward to how we evaluate that, because I couldn't come up with an easy answer on that. So you feel like there's a significant number of people who have taken the money and run, more or less?
Well, I think that there's some that are out there who have made a lot of promises who can't deliver on those promises, right? And I don't think that
who on my staff has been talking to you?
Oh, nobody. Oh, look, this is like a scandal happening. Okay, let's keep going, Chris. Keep going.
No, I'm just saying. I'm just gonna right now. I'm gonna lock Rye out, make sure he can't pop in here and spill any more beans. So, I mean, I'm just saying, if ILSR as Community Broadband Networks program is one person next year, it's just you should expect that because I don't know. Apparently, you make a lot of promises to people about buying boats at the end of the year, and then you don't come through, and people are disappointed.
You're already making your predictions for 2025 for ILSR, Chris.
All right, Chris, who's your pick? Yes,
my pick is Mayor Adams of New York City, who came in, and there had been a lot of good work that was done to develop a plan for New York, where the city would invest in infrastructure to make it easy for other companies to build networks out. I think in a large metro, it's hard for a city to try and do Chattanooga, and I think building out neutral infrastructure is a really smart thing to do. And he came in and I would say more or less in a manner that seemed quite corrupt, said, no, we're just going to give money to these companies that are doing the thing the ACP is already doing, and we're just going to give them money, and they're going to do, the big cable and telephone companies, they're going to do whatever they want to do with it. And after 3 years of doing that, no one's really been connected. New York's languishing. Like, it just sucks. I think Mayor Adams has been a disaster, and he's screwed up enough things that no one will ever notice the broadband stuff except for us. But it's just it's a travesty.
We all aspire to your level of candor, Chris.
The thing is that, like, I'm such a nice person that, like, I have no malice. And so, the standard for defamation, I think, has to involve malice. So I can't.
Travis, you see him first person. Is this true?
Yeah,
did I hear that right? I am such a nice person.
Yeah, like who just says that about themselves?
Yeah.
I'm so great. Like,
not great. I'm super nice.
Most people who say that are usually cartoon villains. So I'm
yes.
not worried. Yes.
No, I mean, I just think of all the mayors that have done nothing on broadband, they annoy me. But then to actually go backwards with $90 million and to come up with nothing out of it is just. And none of that, he drove good people out of the city who are doing good work on this stuff. To Newark's advantage, I don't know if that's why Aaron left the city of New York and went over to Newark. But Newark's doing smart stuff. So anyway, that's who I got. We'll see. We'll see you later.
You are a nice fella there, Mr. Mitchell. You are a very nice fella.
The thing that wasn't on my bingo card for this year also comes out of New York. The low income program stands. I didn't give it a chance. I mean, years ago, people would talk to me about this program, and I was like, don't waste your time thinking about it. It's not going to happen. The courts are going to shoot it down. And the Supreme Court did not hear the challenge against it. And so it sounds as though New York's program is allowed to stand, which means that probably other states will start to do that too. I don't know. I'm talking a lot, and I'll try and quiet down to let other people share. But New York developed a program years ago. ISPs that have more than 20,000 subscribers are required to participate in it. Smaller ISPs can get a waiver, but you have to have a $15 a month plan or a $20 a month plan, and there's different kinds of speeds that are associated with each of those. And it sounds like that's going to be enforceable pretty soon. Doug, have you been tracking this?
Yeah, and I hate the idea because, quite to be honest, $15. It's as much as we say all the big companies are making a fortune. You can't cover your costs for $15. It's just
in urban areas you probably could.
Maybe it's a ridiculously low rate. I mean, a small percent, but if it gets too carried away, it breaks business plans. It's just it's an arbitrary number that was just picked out of the air. They could have come up with a way for each company to come up with their own plan that made sense. But, that's a dictate from on high. It's a scary thought because, there's plenty of ISPs with more than 20,000 customers who, if 10% of their customers took that, they'd be over. So, I mean, that's
what I'm afraid of. Yeah, no, I think that's a very real fear we'll have to keep an eye out for. Travis?
So, so I'm not worried about Comcast. I'm worried about the guy who has 22,000 customers. So, yeah.
Yeah, but wasn't the requirement it was pretty strict. You had to be 135% below.
It's actually 185% of poverty. So it's a pretty broad eligibility threshold. I was shocked at that.
It was broad, Travis. Not.
Oh, it was broad. Okay, I read that wrong. Yeah.
Yes.
Not anyone can take advantage. You have to their families have to be in some degree of need, but I think that would apply to, I don't know if I had to guess off the top of my head, 25 to 40% of people
In
in
most
many of these
markets,
areas.
yes.
Yeah, I mean, especially I've driven through rural upstate New York. There's a lot of rural poverty in that state.
Right.
And they didn't differentiate between like single family home or multi-dwelling unit. It's just anyone.
No.
Yeah,
Well, it's tailored to how big your family is, and a single person has a different poverty threshold than a family before, but it's still the threshold. So.
Nope, you're right. This is just another way to keep the small ISPs down, huh?
Well,
Yeah.
we'll see. I mean, what depends on what you define as a small ISP. Hopefully, we'll get some evidence, and other states will, craft this with care rather than just responding to the loss of the ACP with some sort of quick measure to say that they're doing something. But I think it's concerning. Jade, as someone who had to give serious thought to a lot of this stuff, the ACP is gone. I would think that states would be pretty interested in this requirement to at least tell people they're doing something.
Yeah, I think that, they would be wise to understand that nobody benefits if networks aren't sustainable. So how do you balance the needs of consumers and adoption rates in low-income households? But I do think this is a signal that like states can regulate broadband. I did not see that coming. And I don't know about other states, but I know in Kansas that like the telecom and cable associations are some of the most powerful lobbyists in the state. And so I really anticipate that they will be relentlessly pursuing their agendas in these states, in these state legislatures. And so it'll be really interesting to see how everybody responds. But, I read an article that said something with Title II, like as that is resolved, it might make states less able to pass the courts, but like New York's already done. I'm not an attorney.
Blair Levin has talked about this, and I cannot represent exactly, but I think we will be addressing it in greater discussions in January. Doug, did you want to jump in on that?
Yeah, the one thing that is interesting here is the Supreme Court simply didn't take the case. So they haven't said this is okay. Remember, they get fed like 400 or 500 pretty major cases a year. They take 30 or something, and so not taking it is not the same thing as approval here. So if somebody really gets carried away with this, it could still end up back up there someday.
No, here's what will happen, Doug. I mean, what will happen is
two other states will do the same thing. We'll end up with conflicting rulings, and then they have to take it, is what happens.
Exactly. The Fifth Circuit, some state in the Fifth Circuit will do it. The Fifth Circuit will find that this is rate regulation and states don't have that authority. Whereas the courts have held that New York doing this was not rate regulation. It was like a low income plan. And
now here's
hold
the flip
on a
side
second,
of that.
Doug, before
Okay,
that. So what Jade was saying, though, I think is important to know, which is like there's this balance between what the states can do and the federal government can do. And whether telecom is under Title II or internet access, more specifically, is Title II or Title I, changes that balance between the states and the federal government, I think, basically. But as to what that actually means, we'll have a lawyer on to talk about.
But generally, states have been allowed to fill in any gaps that the feds don't do. I mean, they have not. Most of them have not been brave enough to do that much, except California and New York. But they've done it. But most states have had that right for a long time. So.
Right, and Washington under Jay Inslee.
Do you think you're going to see more? I was going to say, do you think you're going to see any more other states tackle this, or do you think?
I hope not, because this is essentially
no predictions. This
we can't predict yet. We can't predict yet. Put it on your list.
Sorry. Okay, I'll put it on my list for next show. Nobody listened to that past 5 seconds.
Is there a $15 electricity and $15 water and $15 garbage?
Well, these are regulated. Those are regulated, and so there are programs to make sure people can afford them. There are prohibitions against getting cut off from it, and there are programs that will subsidize people's bills, like LIHEAP and stuff like that.
Okay, how about $1 bread and $1 gas? I mean, where does this end?
Well, if we had $1 bread, Jean Valjean never would have gone to prison, and we would have been lost out on the best musical of all time. So I'm not with you on that one, Travis.
Well, I'm just saying how far is government overreach on this topic?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the question. Is that it's up to the people to decide fundamentally, I think, and so people will be electing those in who will be deciding whether to continue sort of overreaching and not getting people internet access, or to overreach in terms of over-regulating those who are doing it, I suppose.
Yeah, what was so interesting about that law is that it wasn't limited to networks that were built with with public subsidy dollars.
Hmm.
And so it's
No, it's
very
everybody. It's
Right.
everybody.
Anybody, yeah.
And that's where I didn't see it coming. I thought that the courts would shoot it down. So, that's we haven't got the predictions, and I'm already conceding defeat, I guess. Okay. The legacy of the Biden FCC. I wanted to, it's been a slow show in that we haven't had a lot of comments, but okay. Cats is the best musical of all time. We're gonna saucy take. We are going to just briefly talk about the legacy of the Biden FCC, and that'll lead into talking more about an article that Jessica Rosenworcel did, in which she reviewed some of her highlights of her term. I'm curious if people, as this FCC comes to a close, and let's go to Kim first on this. How about you sum up the legacy of this FCC?
There's a legacy of this FCC is my comment is, I mean, let's be honest. It took us 2 years to even get on the full FCC, and then it's just been a slow roll. But we did get some things accomplished with the FCC, so got to give at least broadband has.
That's
yes,
what you haven't come up with anything.
Yes, but they changed the different definition of broadband.
Okay,
that's my one prediction. See, they did one thing.
Yep.
See,
yeah.
Like you like. I mean, we're not where I think it should be, but at least it's better than it was. At least we're not 25-3 anymore coming into 2025. I think that's a huge victory from the FCC.
It's a victory. I'll give you that. Jade, don't let my
your negativity in our positive world discount this. Come on.
Don't let my negativity toward this Federal Communications Commission sway you in any way. How would you think of the legacy of this the 4-year period?
Well, what he meant to ask you was, what bad thing can you say about this FCC? So not to sway you.
No, I'm searching for the silver lining. So Jade, you can bring it.
Overly cautious and picked the wrong battles, which makes me sad as the first, woman to be sworn in or appointed by the Senate to serve in this capacity. I wish she would have been bolder, because at the end of the day, at least you get stuff done. Maybe half the people hate you, but it's the difference. It's the Lena Khan versus the Rosenworcel.
What
dilemma.
battles do you think she should have taken on, Jay? Just from my opinion, like where do you think she misstepped, or the FCC?
Well, I mean, I think that the full court press on, expanding E-rate into, school buses and the digital discrimination stuff. These are all ideals that are great, but let's focus on, more accurate mapping on the mobile side, and let's focus on, opening up. I just feel like she was a little bit, could have been more aggressive, but maybe I'm being too harsh.
You all are missing that she won the most important battle to her. She kept Gigi Sohn off of the FCC. That was her biggest battle. She spent 2 years winning it, and we should congratulate her for having achieved that.
Well, I'm not a fan of people who pull the ladder out.
Doug, how do you react?
Cabaret is the best musical. Let's just be straight here. So, okay.
I've only seen like 3 musicals, so I really can't judge that much. But I've seen those musicals many times. Go ahead, Doug.
Okay, very good. Yeah, it's hard to disagree with what's already been said. The fact is, just taking on USF reform would have been a huge one. I mean, all the big important things are left alone. She could have gotten, all these defaults on RDOF, they could have been very much more aggressive on getting this RDOF stuff done, because it's their program, and they haven't said a word about RDOF since the end of the auction. It doesn't even come up in their meetings. So they're ignoring their own failures. And it's not even that they didn't have 4 people, because she could have still had the discussions, even with 4 people and not 5. She could have opened the dockets and had the public comments made on all sorts of topics, and they just didn't do that. So, yeah.
Yeah, Travis, I don't know if you have anything to throw in.
Well, I think they're the second best FCC we've ever had.
Come on.
He knows 2 FCCs now.
Well, they have,
your attempt to bait me into a rant is going to fail.
No, think about it. They did nothing, which is great. Well, they didn't get in anybody's way.
No, Travis, they did something. They gave out tens of millions of dollars to someone to develop bad, inaccurate map data that we would not be able to use publicly. Like they did lots of things. They were just poorly done.
It didn't affect us operators in a day-to-day. So
it is. I mean, it didn't affect you, perhaps, but like I think it is affecting others. And
why no BEAD money's been given out, so they didn't affect.
I mean,
anybody.
The Affordable Connectivity Program died, and it's not like, you know, it's one of those things where like if you're able to say, you know what, we fought the good fight. Well, Jessica, you didn't. The FCC, and it was the 3 Democratic commissioners had no plan for how they were going to try to like have the ACP win. Their plan was to tell people they should talk to their senators and representatives. That's not a plan. You know, they should have had a plan around actually connecting people. Jessica came in as chair of the FCC. Jessica Rosenworcel came in having bragged about creating the term homework app, which I'm not sure she did. I mean, that's right up there in terms of originality of like Amazon's patent on one-click buying in terms of obvious phrasings of things, but she has done nothing on it. Like, I mean, it's just, you know, when she wrote this article with, I think it was a Columbia or NYU School of Law, law school, and she talked about how she's really proud of what they did with the ACP. The FCC screwed the ACP up. Like they got money out the door. Yes, the program was difficult to sign up for. They didn't actually anticipate that people might actually need help to sign up or understand the program until it was almost out of money. And then they ran such a bureaucratic approach to get that money out the door. It didn't get out the door until the program was over. She set up the Space Bureau, and I think that's actually something that will be good for like long-term legacy. Like that's good. But then like the next thing she brags about is something about fitness trackers and malware and stuff, which does anyone really think that the fitness trackers produced in 2025 are going to be less susceptible to malware than they were in 2023? I don't think so. It's a total loss. It's just embarrassing.
But think about it. I mean, they were walking in the shadow of the greatest FCC ever. So I mean, how do you expect them to live up to Ajit Pai's FCC? There's no way it's even possible.
Well, they could have done 7 gig. They could have done 7 gigahertz.
Yeah,
5-minute abs.
Should we talk about the 6 gigahertz, the greatest FCC accomplishment of all time? I mean, here's the thing: they stayed out of our way. Thank you.
I mean, that's actually there's a lot to be said about that.
There is.
I don't want to dismiss it. I feel like it's not persuasive to me.
They stay out of your way because they don't like holding anybody accountable. So
yeah, I mean that's something. The Federal Communications Commission, and I think, you know, like Jade had mentioned with the mapping. I mean, I would like to have seen them do something to try to actually make it more likely that low-income families would be connected who haven't been. And they did a digital discrimination thing, which is like, it came up with a decent definition. And then we all knew that nothing was going to happen. That's one of our predictions. I'm spoiling the rest of the show. Nothing happened with it. Nothing's going to happen with it. But like the FCC, doing digital discrimination would be great. The core thing the FCC should know is like how many Americans have internet access, and they don't. And like, because they don't know, they're asking millions of Americans to fix the maps, which is absurd because like, there's no way for millions of Americans to fix the maps. Like, it's almost like, you know what the millions of Americans should do is like, they should pay tax dollars to create an expert agency that could do it. That's what we should do.
And on the low
you're ignoring crowdsourcing.
Hold on, Doug. Let Jade go, and then you can tell me that I'm wrong.
I was just going to say, on the low income front, they don't even count dwelling units as households on the map, which has caused just such a complex issue with BEAD. And I mean, that would have been more effective than some of these policies that they knew were just going to be overturned in an administrative, switch.
Yeah. Doug?
It's worse than you said, Chris, because they brag how the crowdsourcing, the fact that the public could fix the map, like you tried to do. Wasn't that wonderful?
Yeah. It's just so incredibly frustrating. And the reason that I harp on it week after week is because I feel so alone. Like you all, you see it too, but like so many of the allies in the public interests have their head in the sand about this. And I just feel like whenever Democrats take over the FCC the next time, the Democrats will know that they just do whatever industry wants, whatever, I should say specifically the big monopolies want, they're going to get a pass, because if you have a D behind your name, you're not going to be criticized. And it's really frustrating to me. So, With that, I want to move on to, we put this in there specifically for Travis. Travis, your second favorite Federal Communications Commission has opened the 6 gigahertz band to very low power device operations. What does this mean, and why are you going to be talking about it for the next 3 years as the single greatest thing that Jessica Rosenworcel did?
Well, I don't know if it's that great. I mean, in-home or wearable on 6 gig. I mean, it's potentially the next evolution of Bluetooth, I suppose. But how that's going to be significant, I probably fairly irrelevant compared to the fact that if they gave us outdoor access with more gain, that would be really usable. I'm surprised they didn't do it the other way.
So I'm not an engineer. I don't know if anyone's noticed that in all of these years. And I was talking to some people that actually know some of this stuff recently, and they were talking about how Bluetooth is a total dog and it sucks. And it's like basically survives on like legal tricks and stuff like that. And so my question is, will this be a better Bluetooth? Does anyone have any idea?
Well, it all depends. This stuff all depends on whether the people who make the equipment decide to change. I mean, everything already has Bluetooth in it, and you know, to start manufacturing something with this in it, you're taking a risk that it's not usable for everybody and you can't sell it. So it's hard to change standards like that. It's really hard. So
I think the good news is, at least on the next wave of electronics that'll have a 6 gig chip in it, they can probably do multifunction, you know, Wi-Fi and whatever they're going to call this. Yeah, there are some flaws in Bluetooth, but you know, for what it is, it's highly usable. I mean, it's been very successful.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't understand. I had read that, like I was confused because, like, I mean, I don't know. Like this Bluetooth mouse that I have, like, constantly loses signal. I have to pull the dongle out and put it back in. And I'm like, why do I even have a dongle for the mouse when everything's Bluetooth anyway? And it turns out because like there's some legal stuff where if you want to use a mouse without a dongle, you have to like pay some patent troll or something. And you know, it just comes back to this thing of like, why don't we have nice things? Because like we allow this stuff to stand. I don't know.
Yeah, but also remember, Bluetooth is very low bandwidth. You only have like 1 megabit. So imagine if you could have, you know, even 100 megabit, the things you could do on it would be far more usable. So, I mean, I guess it's...
You think I do that much clicking?
Well, yeah. No, but it could alleviate some of the headaches of Bluetooth. Like if you've ever switched from one phone to another, you lose all your Bluetooth connections. You know, things like that could be resolved with this. That would make it more usable. But I don't know if they were going to spend all that time to open up low power. I wish they would have done something on the high power side.
Doug, you're leaning forward. It looks
they're saving high power for the next administration. They are looking at it. So yeah,
this next one's going to be good.
All right. That's a prediction. It's too close to a prediction. I'm not going to respond to it. We're gonna look back at our predictions for the year, focusing on Kim and Doug because I want to pick on them.
Do you think Jade has picked up the fact that we tried to rile Chris up? Do you think she's picked up on that yet?
I think she's gotten that. I think she's figured that out. Yeah.
Remember,
she hasn't
stirred it up yet. To what Chris wants. That's what I do. It's always a good time.
The problem is that Jade's just too nice of a person, but she's not the one who tells us that she's such a nice person. We just know that about her.
I'm from Kansas. It's like a Midwest thing. Yeah. I don't know how I got this reputation for being a rabble rouser. I'm like a Mennonite from Kansas.
Well, let's rile up Chris. It's always fun. So,
well, I think in part because Jade, I think a lot of people that are working here are afraid of saying things that other people aren't saying, and you have said some of those things out loud, and so people are like, having a response, which is good because the other response that women sometimes get when they do that is burn her. So historically it's dangerous to speak your mind, but I salute you for doing so. We wanted to give a shout out. I'm just gonna do a really weird pivot to gratitude. And so we got a request from one of our listeners to do a shout out to all the people at NTIA. I want to bring it out to Treasury and others who have been working on these programs, the rescue plan dollars. I would say that years ago, we were deeply concerned about money going through Treasury. Treasury's done a great job. People at NTIA, we criticize them, some of the decisions that have been made, but NTIA is filled with people who have come in to do a hard job, are doing the best they can to try and get the money out. And it is hard to work in the environment that has currently existing of these bureaucracies. And I am deeply thankful for all those people who go in there to try to make the world a better place by serving the country in that way. So anyone else have anything they want to add to that?
I think you're right. I think that even though we can criticize NTIA and we can criticize what didn't happen in the announcement that's right above me at the Sky Club, is that there were a lot of good people trying to do a lot of good things at NTIA. And I do think there was a lot of hard work that was put in the last years to try to get some of this BEAD money out.
Yep.
I'm not a giant fan of how nice we're getting here all of a sudden, but
well, I think it's.
Did
I mean,
someone say bead?
It's
Bead?
what we call
I
the
hear bead?
holiday season, Doug. The holiday season. We're supposed to be
sorry.
happy.
But
about
also,
that.
I don't know.
Okay.
I grew up in Pennsylvania where I felt like we gave license to be to be mean to each other while we were also being honest with each other or just being jerks. So I think it's possible to both tell someone you appreciate their work while also telling them how they could do it better.
Completely agree. And I said that earlier when I criticized NTIA that they also do a lot of good stuff. I agree. So
yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Kim thought
So
ACP would be renewed. Go
I
ahead,
did
Jade.
want to mention, like, as everyone says, BEAD is just, going to poo and nothing was done by NTIA. It's important to remember that all that money is now encumbered to the states. It's all in their ASAP treasury accounts. They can't necessarily claw it back and dismantle it at this point, I think. I mean, I guess.
Necessarily.
So I think that's a strong legacy to stand on. I mean, nothing's connected, but by God, the money is in the hands of the people who are hopefully going to get it done in the next couple of years. So that's a win.
Yeah, and some of those states are, we praised them on our last show for making, I think, wise decisions about how to be connecting the 1% most expensive. So I think there's things to be looking forward to. But looking backward now, let's go through Kim's quick. Kim's going to be leaving the show a little earlier than normal because you apparently have a flight to catch. Kim, you said ACP would be renewed.
I was totally, excuse my language, dead ass wrong on that prediction.
Yeah. Doug was only partially dead ass wrong because he said it would run out and then get more money before the end of the year.
And I really believed that, but I forgot how inept the House of Representatives is. So, but I really thought they would get it done. So, yeah.
Yeah. Roger Timmerman was on the show doing a CES report, and he said he also thought it would be getting more money because of the political situation. I said it would run out. There would be no new money in the year. And whenever we got news over the course of the year, I had to remind myself that even though it really doesn't matter what I think, that I should not quietly hope that ACP did not get funds because I would just finally be right about something. But it turns out I was right about something.
So
I feel
you're
like
going to brag about something that hurt a whole lot of people. This is terrible.
Only 23 million people, but hey, pays to be a pessimist.
Yeah, we need you to really mark this place in this podcast that Chris was right about one thing since we've started this podcast.
Yeah, if I can be right about a second thing, we'll do a compilation at some point in the future. Kim, you said the FCC would change the definition of broadband, and you said it would be to 100 by 20.
Boom.
I said it
one
wouldn't.
thing.
I said it would not.
Yeah, but I truly think you said it wouldn't because you were hoping it would.
Doug said there would be a giant impact of Wi-Fi 6 with 2 to 3 gigabit speeds in rural areas.
Completely didn't come to pass. Not even a little bit. Yes.
I was wondering if Jade wanted to reflect on this a bit. As someone who's been thinking about Kansas, we've talked about wireless on the show quite a bit, and how wireless has come a long way. And I know that you're focused on fiber, but I'm curious, what you think in terms of a future where there's more wireless investment because of the way it's improved so much.
Yeah, look, I mean, I think as a country as a whole, we all benefit if we build up that fiber grid and get it as far out into, our country as we can. But it's hard to argue with these next generation fixed wireless solutions. I mean, Toronto, they're expensive. They use a little bit too much power, but definitely more it's definitely going to be more approachable in states like Kansas and even like Colorado, Nebraska, all these plain states that got a fraction of what they needed for ubiquitous coverage, while others are dealing with a $500 million slush fund. So yeah, we need to be thinking about wireless, and let's look at the solutions that are best suited for long-term scalability. You know, you talk about the 100 by 20 and everyone's focused on like, well, you know, satellite can do 100 by 20, this can do 100 by 20, but like we really need to be focusing on what are we going to need in 5 years, 10 years, and stop thinking about what's the bare minimum. But again, there are some wireless developments that can do that and more. So let's just, when we think about wireless, not think about the lowest we can get for the money, but what's going to be scalable is my take on it.
You know what? I'm going to break my own rule, and I'm going to make a prediction. Tirana will turn out to actually be more advanced than anyone realizes. Actually, their devices require just a fraction of the power that they're using, but it turns out that they've been doing crypto mining on everyone's tower. So that's where the power is actually going.
Somebody writing this one down. We got to
2025. We'll find that out. Yes. Juan, who's a longtime guest, a person in the chat, expected mobile wireless to decline. I think all of us did. And my read on it is that mobile wireless subs have kept pace, more or less.
FWA is up to 10 million customers. I mean, they're not declining. They're the only ones growing in the entire industry. Let's be serious here. So, yeah. And just plain old cell phones are up to 200 to 300 megabits per second where I live and where most people live out there in cities. Mobile networks have gotten pretty darn good. So,
well, it really points
rural wireless.
Price point matters.
Yeah. So,
Jade.
Oh, I was just saying, price point matters. I think is what we've learned from that, and we can't pretend like it doesn't matter. Like when someone's low income and they have the choice between fiber at $90 a month or a mobile solution at $55.
Well, if you have a choice between a Charter Spectrum connection in which you're paying nearly $100 a month, and the reliability is not that great, where you're having outages, where even when it's working, as Doug was until he got rebuilt, apparently, switching to T-Mobile, where you might have slightly more outages, is frankly not that different. The cable companies, through their lack of high quality reliability, I think have conditioned people to accept it. Now, if you get Travis's service, you have an ironclad requirement that you have to complain if you miss a ping. But for everyone else, they don't have high expectations.
You are correct, Mr. Mitchell. And actually, it's 2 pings, just to be clear.
Okay, 2 in a row.
Yeah.
I said there'd be a huge campaign against municipal broadband. I was wrong. There was some small stuff, and then ITIF came out with a dumb report recently that some poor intern had to put together overnight, and but there's no campaign yet. We'll see.
There was that weird stuff against Utopia,
right? But we thought that was the beginning of something bigger.
No, that petered out very quickly.
Yeah, I think Kim actually hunted those people down, and they disappeared. Their loved ones were actually still looking for them.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm a lover, not a hater, Chris. I mean, I don't go fight for people. I think I was one of the ones who said there was going to be some. Did I say there was going to be some attacks on muni broadband this year? I think that it's interesting because I think muni broadband petered out a little bit because of the BEAD money. So I don't think that the campaigns came to fruition. But I think you're seeing some more communities look back to muni broadband this year. So maybe it will happen. Who knows?
Yeah, I don't know. My gut feeling is that muni broadband, it may have not kept up with that rapid rate of growth. Sorry, mind if I have a quick stroke over here? But it between California and New York, which is something I predicted, then we would see a significant amount of growth, and we are seeing that, I think, because of those state programs. So, but Kim, you did say that you thought we would see some of the munis who thought it was easy start to fail. I don't think we've seen that.
I think that I was too quick. I still stand by this prediction, but I don't think my year was correct on this. So. But I still stand by my prediction. I'm doubling down, Chris. I'm like you with the chicken wing bet. I'm just doubling down.
If you do double or nothing forever, sooner or later you die and you don't have to pay. Especially if you keep eating a lot of wings during that period. But one of the things that Doug and I have talked before about MyNet, and I think we're going to be doing a community broadband bits episode on MyNet soon out there in Oregon. And, they struggled and they fixed it, and they're now wildly successful. And Clarksville, Tennessee is another one. And so I think you're right in that we may see some, struggle, but I actually don't think that's as bad as some people think. It's just a kick in the pants to get better management sometimes.
Fair enough, Chris. Fair enough. We'll see how it goes. And I got to jump because I got to go get a hit of flight. But thanks, everybody. Merry Christmas.
Thanks for
Jim.
doubling down. Fly safe.
I said California and New York would define the muni wins for the year, more or less. They did. California's done a wonderful job. And California's announcement of joint builds, I think, is really cool. And I don't know, Jade, if you had thought about this at all, but I think what California is doing, where they're working with the tribes or the cities where they want fiber to be, and jointly owning it is it's really cool. There's never been joint builds between the state and tribes before in California, so they've pioneered that, but they're also doing it with some cities, and I think that's pretty exciting.
Yeah, that's a really cool model. It'll be a good way to teach other states how to do it. California typically pilots these things, and they either fail or fly, and other states learn from them. So that's an exciting model to watch.
Yeah, and in some rare cases, they could actually fail, and then we still learn from them. So, Kim had said there'd be a simplification of models and some consultants leaving the industry. Doug, have you seen any consultants kind of work? I mean, I think this is something that we all kind of got wrong in that we just didn't see as many cities moving forward with as many shady consultants.
No, I've not seen anyone leave. It's not that I've noticed. So yeah, I think we got that one wrong.
Doug, you said the rural areas would be more upset about bad mobile wireless than home internet access. How do you rate yourself?
It's completely true, but yet they're not stirred up about it. It's really weird. It's almost like people have gotten resolved to terrible rural mobile service. I mean, when you go to rural areas, they are locally madder about that than they are about their broadband. But it's never gelled to the point, and it's probably because we don't have the national emphasis. It's never gelled to the point where it filters up as a group to the legislators or anything. So I completely still think it's true. Every place I ever talk to, that's the top of their list. But it's never become a state or national issue. So yeah.
Well, and it's do you guys remember? Was that was in 22, fall or winter of 22 when the map challenge happened?
Yes.
Well,
right.
They actually opened up the mobile map challenge at the same time, but there was no attention on it, and nobody even understood how to submit challenges to it, right? And so now we're going into this auction, and we've got this map that is arguably worse than the wireline map. Right?
Oh, it's much worse. It's much worse. Yes.
But isn't it? I mean, I don't understand why we can't fix this. I mean, like Vermont and California have both done extensive driver testing. Where you drive around and you do the testing, and like it doesn't seem like it would be that difficult to get a handle on. I mean, to me, it seems harder to deal with home, fixed service than it is to figure out what mobile service is like.
I think
but it has to be a priority, and you got to spend it. Yeah, it's the money. So.
It's actually terrifying when you're traveling in a rural area and you don't have coverage, especially like I just don't travel that much alone anymore since I'm not state broadband director, but that's not a good position to be in. And arguably from a public health or public safety standpoint is a problem that should be more on the forefront than even, these home broadband.
Yeah, because I think most people don't even pack properly in their cars, to have like an emergency, because they just assume that they're a phone call away from help. Yep. I said the Dems would lose on broadband, that the cities weren't going to be getting a whole lot. ACP would run out. And then in general, it would be bad for the Democrats. And Jade, I'm not going to say how I evaluate myself. I just want to ask you, based on that, how do you think I did?
Well, I think that, pessimism definitely came in handy for your predictions. Yeah, I think you're pretty accurate on that.
I think was it you that just said that that probably the next administration would get credit for the things that are built?
Yeah. Well, it'll be interesting. We're seeing this transition in power at the FCC, and Starks may leave, Symington may leave. But we know NTA is going to leave. But then you're seeing all these transitions in these major trade associations too, and I don't know how much of that is because of the party switch. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. We got Guthrie over the House Communications Committee, hopefully Jerry Moran over the Senate one, and yeah, they're going to get all the credit for anything good that happens.
Well, Moran has long, I think, been a quiet Senator Moran, Republican from Kansas, right? He's still there. Yeah, he's long been, I thought, a good advocate on stuff. He's just super quiet on it.
He is. I mean, I remember when he was in the House in '96, he was one of the few that voted for the Telecom Act. Few Republicans. So
that could go either way, depending on which part of the act you're talking about, is whether we're furious about it or really happy about it. Doug, Travis, how do you want to rate me? Did the Democrats lose on broadband?
Well, no, because you predicted it, I would say they won gloriously. Yes. How about you, Travis?
Shoot, you took my position too. Yeah.
Look, nobody cares, right? That's sort of like one of the things the last 10 minutes I've sort of talked about. I just
the
feel
fact
like
we already talked about the FCC and what they did at the legislative level. The Dems did nothing on broadband, so there wasn't any Democratic broadband stuff. Nothing much happened. We had about 40 different versions of let's fix ACP bills that never went anywhere. What else did we do? So,
well, hold on, Doug. Hold on. That it begs a question we rarely, if ever, ask. How many people are being served by the wonderful BEAD dollars currently?
As it happens, I have a chart.
Do you mean everywhere?
Everywhere. I'm talking nationwide. How many people are currently being served by high quality broadband because of the initiative of BEAD?
All right, I'm gonna share this quick. This is everyone's favorite part of any event is when someone says, "I'm going to share something," and starts clicking around while staring blankly at the screen. Here we go. I think this is the right bar chart. If not, everyone just avert their eyes. So if you can, I think you can read that. This is a survey that recently came out, Broadband.io, and Doug Adams sent it to me. And whenever he sends me something and I don't immediately broadcast it out to the universe, he's annoyed, and I don't want to annoy him. He's a good guy. Travis, you might only have a few more weeks of being able to ask that question, because the state broadband office is 3%, which I think is out of like 30. So that's one respondent, I think, out of the 31 respondents believes Q1. So some homes are going to start getting connected. What concerns me is these ones that are here. Half of the respondents think that the BEAD construction will start more than a year away. So,
and when did we start this whole BEAD journey?
I think I was 5 or 6.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah.
And in my estimation, that chart's massively optimistic. It's not going to come anywhere close to that chart. It's not going to do anywhere near as well in 25 as that chart shows. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think we're hitting a singularity where it's very hard to predict what comes after January 20th.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Jade.
Oh, I was just going to say, well, Delaware, theirs is done. Nevada's done. I mean, they could potentially, if NTIA signs off by January 20th and they have contracts ready to be signed, they could maybe.
I'm puzzled by Delaware. I was trying to find this. I was using Google. I was using advanced search techniques, and I couldn't find it. But like 2 or 3 years ago, I think
couldn't find Delaware. You couldn't find
right
Delaware.
Up there.
Yeah, I'm like Mike Myers in Wayne's World. We're in Delaware. But Delaware's governor had announced that after they gave millions of dollars to Comcast, that nobody in the state would lack internet access. So I'm surprised that they have to give any money out to Comcast again.
But did you see how much their entire final proposal encompassed? Out of the $107 million they were allocated, they're only spending 17.4 billion. But they only have 600 locations.
I feel like you just threw a giant bucket of cold water on me then.
It's all on the horizon.
Sounds like they mostly solved the problem then.
They're going to be there's some little isolated pockets they'll fix. That's what they're going to fix with that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Was that zero? I just want to make sure we understand.
Yes, yes, Travis, we're at zero.
Okay.
And I'll just remind you that this program was slowed down by a Federal Communications Commission, which under Ajit Pai refused to create the maps that Congress asked it to, which left this FCC scrambling and having no choice but to create one of the worst contracts in history with CostQuest and Associates. So I blame the last FCC, and I think that balances out 75% of the wins.
You do. Of course you do. Mr. Mitchell.
Travis, I think your boy's going to be head of CTIA, so maybe you'll be able to work with him again.
So Jade, do you know where they're going to hook the first person up on BEAD? Any idea?
It's going to be in Louisiana.
It'll probably be in Louisiana.
Do we know anyone there? Can we be there when it happens and see it? It'd be so good.
There's going to be so much fanfare and ribbon cuttings. And
Mitchell,
mission accomplished.
It's going to be one of those pictures like the golden steak on the railroads. It's going to be famous. For
Jade's
100
connected.
years.
I bet Jade, you could probably get some advance notice for Travis. He needs a few days to drive down there.
I talked with
you guys all with. We're all going to visit the first BEAD hookup in the country. This is what it takes 12 years to hook this home up.
I'll see if they are selling tickets and what they go for.
All right, thank you. Front row.
Smart.
Yeah.
Okay, wrapping this up. I said digital discrimination would be a whiff, that nothing would really happen on it. I think that's pretty accurate. From the perspective of the Federal Communications Commission, obviously some communities in California are using it to organize. We'll see if it changes where investment goes. Doug, you did that one. Travis, you said that we would end 2024 1 point down in the federal funds rate.
Oh, shoot. Where are we at?
Well, we're 1 point down, but if we did the show a few days ago, you would have been off.
That's
good,
right.
Good job. Good job, Travis.
Mitchell.
Good job, Travis.
So kudos, Travis. Once again, nailing it. You said at the end,
that's not a victory, just so you know.
You said, well, yeah, it would have been nicer if we ended up a little bit lower. Although, for those of us that have certificates of deposit, it's nice to get an extra, few dollars a month. Travis, you said at the end of the year, pristine fiber maps down to the millimeter.
Well, I was relying on you telling me how great this CostQuest mapping platform was. Well, my data was inaccurate based on our chicken wing dinner that I made it at. So
the last one, and Jade, I want to get your take on this in particular. Doug said half of the states would implode on the BEAD work, and I said we would see states openly rebelling agast the rules.
Doug, it breaks my heart.
Well, first off, go back to the chart that you just showed, where an awful lot of these states are going to get going to 26. It's still true. So yeah.
But did they implode? I mean, do you want to try and defend this again? And Judge Jade will tell us what she thinks.
Well, what I meant by implode was they're going to struggle really hard to get this thing going and out the door. Some of them have had a very hard time. Yes.
Yeah. They're still, they're handcuffed by legislatures that won't let them have FTEs in their office. They have no internal capacity. They don't have great procurement vehicles for consultants. Yeah, they're swimming upstream.
Right.
Would you say that about half of the states are having very significant challenges?
I don't know if it's half the states, but a lot of states.
I said half, but it's really a third. I always said there's a third really good, a third that are pretty okay, and a third that are really struggling. I think it's still true. So,
all right, Travis, Jade, and me, thumbs up or thumbs down on Doug here. 3, 2, 1.
My daughter does this sideways.
I'm thumbs down because I missed 2 of them pretty badly.
All right. My part of that we would see states openly rebelling failed.
That's not true. Oh, maybe not openly, except Misty over in Montana, who put both middle fingers up. But I think states are quietly pushing back, and that's how they're moving forward. And they're not going to move forward unless they continue to move quickly and push back.
Right.
Travis, what are the big things that we should be thinking about as we prepare for predictions for 2025? What's a big trend that you're looking at that we should think about?
Ooh, honestly, I think it's just going to be more of the same. I don't think 25 is going to be a significant year. I think they'll be relatively, we might see some success with the BEAD, but I don't think anything significant. And the high interest rates are going to continue to impede, big building. I think there's going to be maybe a fair number of mergers and acquisitions that happen in the space. The fiber market, especially fiber to the home, has a lot of interest from New York private equity firms. So I think you'll see a little bit of roll up happening, but I think it's going to be a wash, rinse, repeat year. Not very glamorous.
That's a pretty good way to summarize. I agree.
Yeah.
Jade?
My only prediction is that Congress will do nothing on USF reform until the Supreme Court forces their hand. And then they'll be scurrying to do something. So I think that'll go down in 25. Maybe.
Now this was our pre predictions, because we're going to make predictions on the next show, right?
Right. I'm just sort of giving us a sense of what trends we should be thinking
We're just
about.
warming up here.
Warming up is a good way to put it. I am curious in that vein, and I think, Jade, you might have the best view of this. If NTIA decides to significantly downsize its workforce, do you have a sense of where a lot of those folks go? Do you think they stay in broadband in one way or another, or do you think that there's just no room for them?
I think that the best time to have exited was about 6 months ago. I think they're going to struggle. They're going to have a skill set that will be valuable in a lot of positions. I'm just not sure that they'll be absorbable in the broadband industry unless there's a lot of open grant writing, roles in these ISPs that want to go after BEAD. So
maybe they'll do workforce development. I think outside plan is fascinating, and so maybe they'll decide to try their hands at that. I don't want to cast light of it. I mean, these are people who jumped into a field in which we needed to have them. They learn new skills, and as they're getting more comfortable with it, I think it's just frustrating to see that there may not be a lot of opportunities. I mean, I don't think we're going to see the states hiring more people in the short term, really. I could imagine some, but as you were mentioning, the states don't want to put more money into this. Texas is already flirting with how fast they can close theirs down, I guess.
Almost all, on top of that, almost all states are looking at budget deficits coming up. This is not a good year coming up for states. Yep.
Yeah.
Well, that's depressing. Maybe you should end on a happier note.
Yeah, so I do have a specific question. I wanted to come to this question we had in the chat regarding I think this is a question coming from someone in California where the state is building significant middle mile. I don't know that any other state is doing anything like that.
Nevada is. Nevada is with Zayo, and they have their rate card on an interactive map. Mm-hmm. So every state should be doing that.
Now, there's a half a dozen of those states that we talked about that have too much money who are going to do this with their non-deployment funds. Yeah. Yes. So.
Well, and I think that the way that California, we had a show with Matt Peterson joined us to talk about middle mile that I think states would do well to think about, even if they're not trying to solve a challenge of the most remote homes being connected. I think there will be a continued role for investment and public investment in resilient networks to make sure that we have things that stay up rather than just relying on the private sector to do that. So I'm hoping we'll see continued public investment in things like that.
So we're going to close off the show by using the phrase "stay up." Okay, I like it, Travis. What do you think?
All right.
As we do close the show, what are you going to be doing on New Year's Eve? Anything fun?
We are actually thinking of going to the local Philharmonic who is doing ABBA.
I'm so jealous.
It sounds fun and bizarre. So,
well, nobody saw that coming.
In Asheville, it'll be half
tuxedos. Thinking the same thing.
half tuxedos, half hippies. It'll be awesome.
Yeah. Does Grateful Dead do an ABBA thing? I didn't know they did a set. So
no, they do not. So.
Oh, okay.
Jade, what are you going to be doing?
Well, I have a 7-year-old, so we'll probably not make it up till midnight. But watch a holiday movie and have hot cocoa by the fire. It's a simple life.
I have a 9-year-old, and he's the one that tries to keep us up. My wife and I are not huge on it. I will probably be playing Borderlands 3 to try and stay awake. Travis?
I'll be sleeping. So, yeah. No, nothing. Happy holidays. Merry Christmas.
Yes, to everybody. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
A lot of fun. Another good year. Well done, Mr. Mitchell.
Yes, it
Hey,
was
thanks
another
for
year
joining.
indeed.
Thanks, Jade,
Yeah,
for joining
thanks, Jade,
us.
for hanging out.
Oh, delight. Thanks so much for having me. What a great way to end my year.
Yes, and I'm on vacation, so I hope the rest of you that have to work have a good time of it. I've been on vacation for a few days. I'm slowly checking things off the list that I need to do, but I've found that I'm adding 3 new boxes for every box I check off. It's horrible, it's terrible. All right. I thought someone was going to say something funny, but we're gonna actually end it.
Our humor's
Oh,
like
we got 6 gigahertz. All right, I think we're good. We're good, Mr. Mitchell.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, I'll see you in the after show if you want to stick around for a second. But for everyone else, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for sticking with us this year. Thank you to Kim, Doug, and Travis for being on nearly every show, for coming and being seen in public with me, which is dangerous. Jade, I trust that you will, with that smile on your face, will hang up and then say, "I'm never doing that again." But for everyone, hope you have a wonderful holiday, a great new year. We'll see you in about 2 weeks. And it's been another fun episode, a full year of episodes of Connect This.